I never thought a cardboard box could ruin everything I had tried to build. But it did, and what's worse, it wasn't even mine. I wasn't snooping, at least, that's what I told myself. But when Caleb looked at me that night, like I was just another adult who broke his trust, I realized something inside him had snapped. And maybe, inside me too. I've never told anyone this. Not Mark, not even myself, out loud, but maybe it's time I say it. I opened something I shouldn't have. And I lost something I might never get back. I'm 43, a second wife, a stepmother to a boy who never asked for one. And most days, I feel like I'm walking through someone else's life with a borrowed key. Mark and I have been married for 3 years. He's good, steady, kind in the way that leaves no bruises but also no warmth. He travels often for work. And when he's home, he's tired. He says he loves me, but sometimes love feels more like routine than connection. Caleb, his son, is 17, quiet, sharp, grieving in a way that doesn't cry or talk, it just closes doors. His mother left years ago. His grandmother raised him more than anyone. And then she passed. We live together, the 3 of us, or rather, 2 of them and me. I try, I cook, I ask about his day. I leave space when he needs it. But I've always wondered, am I really part of this family? Or just someone filling in the silence? Sometimes I'd ask if he wanted tea. He wouldn't answer, not rudely, not even with words, just nothing. He'd keep walking, or nod without looking, and that silence bruised deeper than shouting ever could. I started memorizing the creak patterns on the stairs, just to know if he was upstairs or not. That's what loneliness looks like when you live with people who don't really see you. Caleb was 17, but he carried himself like someone much older, like life had taught him not to expect too much from people. He wasn't rude, never was, but his silence said more than words ever could. He'd come home from school, nod politely, disappear into his room. We shared a roof, a kitchen, sometimes a laugh when Mark forced us all to watch one of his terrible 80s movies. But we didn't share trust. Or warmth. Not really. He missed his grandmother. You could feel it in the way he looked at certain corners of the house. She was the one who raised him after his mom left, baked him birthday cakes, taught him to garden, left little notes in his lunchbox. I found one once, stuck between the pages of a cookbook. Always remember you're loved. No matter what. I never told Caleb. It felt like her voice wasn't mine to echo. I didn't want to replace her. I just wanted to be safe, reliable, the kind of adult who didn't let him down. But the truth is, no matter how gentle I was, how patient, I was still on the outside looking in. And when Mark left for that weekend business trip, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could use that time to change something. Not to be his mother, just to be someone he might one day trust. That Friday night, after Mark left, I ordered pizza, not because we were hungry, but because it felt like something simple we could share. I knocked on Caleb's door, expecting the usual no thanks. But instead, he paused his game and came down. We ate in silence for a while. 2 slices in, he asked, "You always put pineapple on everything?" I laughed, only when I'm hoping someone will say it's gross and start a real conversation. He smiled, not much, just a flicker, but it felt like the sun peeking out on a cloudy day. We didn't talk about anything serious. Just movies, music, whether ketchup belongs on eggs, it doesn't, by the way. And for a moment, it felt normal, not perfect, but human. He even offered to carry the empty boxes to the trash. When he passed me in the hallway, he muttered, "Thanks, for dinner, it was nice." I stood there after he went upstairs, hand still on the doorknob, and let the warmth linger. I thought we were getting somewhere, that maybe I hadn't ruined it all just by being here. That maybe, even if he'd never say the word out loud, he was starting to see me, not as his stepmother, but as someone who cared. I was wrong, and I didn't know it yet, but the box I'd open the next evening would undo everything. I didn't mean to find the box. I was just cleaning out the guest room closet, something Mark had been asking me to do for months. There were coats, tangled extension cords, dusty board games no one played, and one heavy cardboard box on the top shelf. I reached up, and it slipped. It hit the floor with a dull thud. The lid flopped open, and inside were letters, dozens of them, tied together with string. Old photographs, a delicate gold ring wrapped in tissue paper. There, in black marker on the lid, "Private, do not open." I froze. Every instinct told me to stop, to close it, to pretend I hadn't seen anything. But I didn't. I picked up the ring, small, antique, with a pale sapphire in the center. It shimmered under the light. I turned it over in my fingers, wondering who it belonged to, what it meant. And that's when I heard footsteps. Heavy, fast. Then, "What are you doing?" His voice was sharp, wounded. Caleb stood in the doorway, eyes locked on the open box, then on my hands. For a second, the room felt frozen, then his expression cracked, pure betrayal. I stammered. "It fell. I didn't know." "You had no right," he snapped. "That's mine. Those were hers. You don't get to touch that." My mouth opened, but no words came. The ring felt heavy, wrong in my hand. I set it down like it was burning me. "I didn't mean to." "Of course you didn't," he said, voice low, shaking. "You never do." He turned, walked away. A door slammed down the hall. And in that moment, I knew. Whatever piece of trust I thought I'd earned was gone. Crushed, just like the box I should have left alone. The next morning, the house was quiet in the worst kind of way. Not peaceful, not still. Just hollow. I made coffee like usual. Toasted bread I wasn't hungry for. I stood at the stove waiting for something to change, his footsteps. His voice, a door opening, but nothing did. Caleb didn't come downstairs. And when I passed his room, the light was off. The space between us had never felt so thick. I tried to think of what I would say if I saw him. "I'm sorry. It wasn't what it looked like. Please understand I didn't mean to hurt you." Every version sounded small, insufficient, almost insulting. That box, it wasn't just objects. It was grief, memory. A promise from a woman I never met to a boy who loved her like no one else. And I had cracked it open with clumsy hands and careless curiosity. When Mark texted to say his meeting was extended another day, I didn't respond. I didn't want to hear his voice. I didn't want to hear mine either. I stayed out of Caleb's way, cleaned a room twice, walked in circles. And all I could think was, he's never going to trust me again. That night, I took down the photo on the fridge, the one of the three of us at the lake. I couldn't bear to see my own face next to theirs. It felt intrusive. Like I had photoshopped myself into a life I was never really invited to join. Around midnight, I noticed something under my bedroom door. A folded sheet of notebook paper, edges curled slightly. My name was written on it in blue ink. No, dear, just Emma. I sat on the bed, holding it for longer than I should have. Afraid of what it might say, more afraid of what it might not. Inside, scrawled in Caleb's unmistakable handwriting, were just 10 words. "If you want me to trust you, respect what's not yours." That was it. No signature, no closure. But it felt like a door, barely open, but not slammed shut. I pressed the note to my chest, eyes burning. He wasn't wrong. I had crossed a line I didn't even fully understand until he showed me where it was. It wasn't the box. It wasn't the ring. It was the meaning behind them. And what it meant for him to know I'd stepped over something sacred. He didn't owe me a chance to fix it. But maybe, just maybe, he hadn't completely given up on me either. I didn't respond to his note. I couldn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew words weren't enough anymore. So instead, I started doing small things. Quiet things. I replaced the light bulb in the hallway he always mentioned flickered. I cleaned the kitchen drawer where we kept all the spare batteries and cables. I folded his hoodie after doing laundry, without touching anything else in his room. I left space. And in that space, I hoped he could feel something different. Not regret, not guilt. Just presence. Quiet, steady, respectful presence. That Saturday night, I made dinner, his favorite, roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, buttered corn. I didn't knock on his door. I didn't invite him. I just set 2 plates on the table and waited. At 7:42, I heard footsteps. I didn't look up right away. But when I did, he was already sitting, fork in hand, silent, guarded, but there. We ate without talking. No eye contact. But he didn't leave. And that alone felt like mercy. Afterward, I cleared the plates. He didn't offer to help. He didn't have to. That meal wasn't forgiveness. It was a beginning, or maybe, a soft landing after the fall. A few weeks passed like that. No grand apologies, no long talks. Just life, quiet, steady, and a little less tense. Mark returned from his trip. He didn't ask much. And I didn't tell him. Not yet. Some things weren't ready to be spoken out loud. One afternoon, snow began to fall outside the windows. The kind of soft, drifting snow that makes everything feel slower, quieter. I was decorating the tree in the living room, alone, when Caleb came in. He held a small box in his hand. Red paper, no bow. Here, he said, almost awkwardly, for you. I blinked. Me? He nodded once, then stepped back like he'd said too much. Inside was a photo. Framed, taken last summer at the county fair. The 3 of us, Mark, Caleb, and me. Smiling, not forced, not perfect, but real. On the back, written in Caleb's familiar handwriting. Families mess up, real ones fix it. I didn't cry, not right then. But something cracked open quietly in my chest. Not forgiveness, not closure. But something that looked enough like hope to hold on to. I looked up. He was already walking away. But just before he disappeared into the hallway, he paused. You still don't get to touch the ring. My heart sank. But I thought, maybe you deserved the picture. And with that, he was gone. It wasn't warmth, but it wasn't exile either. Somewhere in between. And maybe that's where we had to start. I never told Mark the full story. Not because I wanted to hide it, but because some things aren't just about facts. They're about feelings, about boundaries you didn't mean to cross but still did. About the way someone looks at you and doesn't anymore. Caleb never said the words, I forgive you. And I never asked him to. Because forgiveness, I've learned, doesn't always sound like a speech. Sometimes, it looks like sitting at the same table again. Sometimes, it's a photo in a red box. I still think about that moment, the box, the ring, the look in his eyes. If I could go back, I would have stopped myself. But if I'm honest, a part of me still would have wanted to know. Not because I needed the ring. But because I wanted to understand the boy I'd grown to care for. And maybe that was my biggest mistake. Wanting to connect without waiting to be invited in. So I'll leave you with this. If you found a box in your house, marked private, and inside was something sacred to someone you love, would you open it? Would you risk everything for the chance to feel closer? Or would you walk away and never know what was inside? I did open it. And I'm still learning how to live with what came next.